Good morning. Welcome to the first Racecar Report of 2020, also known as my birthday, which is relevant because I've been reading The Color of Success, Asian Americans and the Origins of the Model Minority by Ellen Wu. And I'm a couple chapters in, and I wanted to share what I've been learning about the repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act, which I think of as like a horrible late 19th century infamous act of racism preventing Chinese people from entering the United States. I never thought about the fact that I was born in 1972. It was repealed in 1943, aka less than 30 years before my birth. But I also never thought about, that's really strange. Why was it repealed in 1943? During World War II, at the same time that our nation was incarcerating Japanese American citizens of the United States and Japanese immigrants in relocation camps during World War II. Why would we repeal the Chinese Exclusion Act during that time? Well, so it's really interesting. It turns out I never thought about or never realized the significance, if I knew, that China in that time, before the Communist Revolution of 1949, China was our ally in World War II in the war in the Pacific. And so there was this geopolitical pressure, right, to not be continuing this overtly racist practice against the people of our ally, China, nationalist China at the time. There was also, of course, military and economic pressure, just like, Rosie the Riveter got to go and have factory jobs because the war effort needed her while the men were away. Well, the same was true for all that labor that was kind of tacitly imprisoned in Chinatown, where people were, trapped in menial jobs because they wouldn't be employed elsewhere. We needed them out of the Chinese, out of Chinatown to come help with the war effort. So there were really different pressures going on, and it reminds me of something that I learned a few months ago. I don't even remember where, about how geopolitical pressures contributed to federal change around the era of the civil rights era, because never thought about this. That was happening during the time of the Cold War, and we were trying to win, hearts and minds, not only at home, but during the time when Western powers were being forced to decolonize in Africa and Asia and South America. There were these new countries emerging that were black and brown, and the Soviets were pounding us in the global marketplace of ideas with, like, look how terrible the U.S. actually is to people who look like you, this supposed democracy. And now, like, okay, they had their issues too in the Soviet Union, but they weren't wrong about that. And so we needed to change that messaging. That contributed to federal willingness to change discriminatory laws here at home. So I guess this matters, right? Because I'm seeing, I was taught a falsely simplistic narrative of how change actually happens. It's really important both to understand that it wasn't just a matter of, we saw the error of our ways and so we changed. That lets us hope that, things will just change again in ways that aren't true. And it's important to understand, this is how change happens at the legal level, but still leaves untouched the attitudes and biases and behaviors in the power structure that allow discrimination to continue even when laws change. So we need to work at both levels, and it's important to understand these stories to inform how we work for change. So 2020, here's to seeing more clearly. Thanks for listening.